everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can you hear me now? Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, right from your Android or iPhone. Download the Radio K-Man app now on your Android or iOS phone.
The Radio K-Man app
is where you can listen to Radio K-Man everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go, we go. Everywhere we go, we go.
Find it in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiokman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio K-Man everywhere.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health. And RF Group, money at work.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio K-Man Studio.
For the Record.
For the Record. For the Record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the Record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the Record.
For the Record. For the Record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning, O land of soft, fresh breezes and verdant trees, so fair. Today is Friday, the 14th day of January 2022, right here in the Cayman Islands. I hope and I trust that everyone had a restful, peaceful, enjoyable evening. Those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, whether you're a pedestrian, a cyclist, or operating any type of motorized vehicle, we urge you to please be extremely cautious. Ensure that you observe the rules of the road. Remember, the life you save may be your own. For those of you who are celebrating a birthday today, we want to wish you a happy birthday, or if you celebrated one over the past few days, a belated happy birthday to you as well. Those of you who have lost loved ones, again, we want to express our sincere condolences to you. We hope and we trust that your faith will help to carry you through these extremely challenging times, and also that the memories of your loved ones will continue to be a blessing to you. Those of you who are ill and are either at home or at a medical facility, we wish you a speedy recovery. So, folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio K-Man and, by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and the management of Radio K-Man, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. During that period, our phone lines are open. Radio voice of Silver Fox, Mr. Paul Akal, waiting to take your calls. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and the 949-6990. Email us at fortherecord, one word, fortherecord at candw.ky. WhatsApp us 925-3261, where you can send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio K-Man live stream. After the 8 o'clock news this morning, we expect to have in the studio with us the leader of the opposition and his deputy will be on the show this morning. So we look forward to having discussions with them. Meanwhile, first I will share with you the latest COVID-19 update that has been received and also share with you the changes to the reporting of COVID-19 cases that has taken immediate effect as well. So I will share both of those with you. So let's first go to the COVID-19 update that was issued yesterday, Thursday, the 13th of January, 2022. Chief Medical Officer Interim, Dr. Artelia Newton, reported 380 new positive PCR tests for COVID-19, while the number of confirmed cases of the Omicron variant in the Cayman Islands remains at 132. The number of probable Omicron cases reached 2,059. So there's a huge gap between the number of confirmed cases and the number of probable cases of Omicron, over 19, somewhere close over 1,900 difference in there. And maybe the reporting that I will share with you later on will explain why there's such a wide discrepancy between the number of confirmed cases and the number of probable cases as well. The report also goes on to say that 10 COVID-19 patients were hospitalized in the Cayman Islands as at midnight on Thursday, the 13th of January. 3 new patients were included in that number. Meanwhile, 11 new cases of COVID-19 were reported in the sister islands. And of course, that is what was shared with us at that point in time. And then some graphs were also sent out, some figures showing new cases as well as new cases in the sister island. So that's basically all that we got in relation to that. Now, why did we get that release that way? On yesterday, the 13th, Thursday the 13th, at about 8:05 p.m., this was sent out as a media release. Cayman COVID-19 reporting shifts to match international practices. Okay? So it reads, Cayman COVID-19 reporting shifts to match international practice. Public health has shifted from daily reporting of COVID-19 statistics to weekly after an assessment led by Interim Chief Medical Officer Dr. Artelia Newton and visiting advisors from the United Kingdom Health Security Agency in early December of 2021. Going forward with immediate effect, that means right away, starting once this news release had been issued. So going forward with immediate effect from Wednesday, the 19th of January, right? The report. So on Wednesday, the 19th of January, the report will document an epidemiological week from Saturday to Saturday as per international standards. I'm going to repeat that again. So starting Wednesday, the 19th of January, the report will document an epidemiological week from Saturday to Saturday as per international standards. Alongside data and rates, there will be some graphs which will help to visualize the data and rates and make it easier to understand the changes, developments, and overall trends of the epidemic in Cayman. The new weekly publication will also allow key messages to the public to be more meaningful and hopefully more effective, Dr. Newton explained. And he's quoted as saying, while the community has grown accustomed to daily reports of COVID-19 information, we are now focusing on producing data that will better guide our management of the pandemic locally. By adjusting our scope, the public health and the Ministry of Health teams will be able to offer a clearer picture of how COVID is impacting our community over a sustained period of time. That's a quote given by Dr. Newton. The interim CMO thanked the two public health team, the two-person public health team that has steadily worked to compile the data statistics since they began in 2020 and who will now be working on the weekly numbers. And I'm going to sort of like put a little asterisk by that paragraph, and I'm going to repeat it. The interim CMO thanked the two-person public health team that had steadily worked to compile the daily statistics since they began in 2020 and who will now be working on the weekly numbers. And I'm going to pause there for a second, and we see where in other jurisdictions, and I am sure that we're probably experiencing it here in the Cayman Islands as well, where health services, their staff, the whole system is really being stretched to its limits. And the fact that there were only two persons compiling this data since 2020, my question is, does that have anything to do with us moving from one system to the other? And if we have managed so far since 2020 to do it the way that we have been doing it, and the public has gotten accustomed to that, why now? Does it have anything to do with resources? Does it have anything to do with those resources being stretched as well? I think the inclusion of that paragraph in there speaks for itself, but we will leave it to the public health authorities to explain that, fully explain that to us. The release goes on to say that while public health will report a reduced number of statistics as it prepares for its first weekly report, critical information will still be made available to the public as it occurs through government communications channels. So, as of the 19th, Wednesday the 19th of February, we will see changes in the reporting format and the reporting style. And as the report pointed out, that they will be moving to a new reporting system from Saturday. The report will document an epidemiological week from Saturday to Saturday as per international standards. So the week will run from Saturday to Saturday. We will get, like the last part of the report says, that while the public health will report a reduced number of statistics as it prepares for its first weekly report, critical information will still be made available to the public as it occurs. So we will still get critical information as it occurs through government communications channel. One of the things that I believe helped the authorities here and helped us to encourage people and to steer people in a direction of either getting COVID-19 shots or ensuring that they continue to follow all of the safety and health protocols was the fact that by having these daily numbers and showing the various trends, people got the message when the numbers started to go up, they realized that something is happening in the Cayman Islands, and I'd better do my part, whatever I can do to help this situation. And we hope and we trust that this change in reporting will not change the attitude of people, and will still be highlighting the seriousness of the situation more on a daily basis rather than on a weekly. But like I said, we need the public health authorities to explain to us why it is necessary at this point in time for us to resort to international standards. This small little Cayman Islands where people rely on daily information to go about their conducting their business and adjusting their lives accordingly. Time for us to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
William Warren Connolly, OBE, JP, 1920 to 2008. Mr. Warren Connolly was a businessman and attorney, a former politician, and a significant contributor to the social, economic, and political development of the Cayman Islands. With a particular interest in constitutional matters, he served in the Assembly of Justices and Vestry and its successor, the Legislative Assembly, including 2 terms in EXCO, with responsibility for tourism, natural resources, lands, and surveys. He was instrumental in establishing the MRCU and implementing the cadastral survey of all lands in the Cayman Islands. He promoted the supply of electrical service in the Cayman Islands and served as director of CUC for 32 years. He was the first Caymanian politician to attend the course on parliamentary procedure and practices in London back in 1965. He received the OBE in 1974. Mr. Connolly was married to the former Islay Leone Bodden. He has 3 children. He is a founding partner with stepson David Rich of law firm Rich and Connolly.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Thank you, Cayman blood donor community. You answered the call at a time most critical, the holiday season. You came, you gave, you saved, you gifted. The National Blood Bank welcomed over 60 pints. Your pint, your gift of value beyond calculation. Thank you, dear blood donor. Thank you, staff of the HSA National Blood Bank. Thank you, nurses, physicians, housekeeping, admin staff, EMTs who worked tirelessly throughout the holidays, saving lives, using your pint, your gift of love to save lives. Thank you, Radio Cayman. Thank you, Health Minister Turner, for sounding the clarion call. A message from Rotary Central Community Service and the Cayman Blood Donor Service. Rotary serves to change lives.
Thinking of getting a hybrid but don't know much about them? Vamp Motors has 3 great reasons why you should own the Toyota CHR. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries while being driven. So there's no need to plug in a hybrid, making it both economical and fun to drive. And you don't have to replace your battery every 2 years. The CHR Hybrid is reliable, providing up to 1 million kilometers on the same battery and engine. Oh, and now you can save $2,000 off the Toyota CHR, starting at only $33,500.
That's way more than 3 reasons.
True, but the best one is that it's on sale now. Test drive the Toyota CHR today at Vamp Motors, Walkers Road, while stocks last.
West Bay, home to Barkas National Park, the touristy flair, a family community, a political powerhouse. From sports enthusiasts To car aficionados, affection for silver thatch roof. No matter how far you may venture, West Bay will always be where the heart is. Home will always be in West Bay. West Bay Pharmacy, caring for your home and your family. West Bay Pharmacy in Centennial Towers. Convenient, quality care is just around the corner.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay.
No one can stop me when I taste the feel.
Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. No guests in the studio yet, but we will have the leader of the opposition and his deputy in the studio after the 8 o'clock news. Meanwhile, have about 5 minutes before we go to the 8 o'clock news. I will share with you another release issued by government. This one, this is, in some quarters, this has been a controversial issue. And there were questions, individual questions being asked in relation to this tourism stipend and whether or not it was being properly policed, whether or not persons were gaming the system, taking advantage of it. I have heard stories of some persons saying, they received their tourism stipend, but they also have a job, so they don't have to touch their tourism stipend because they also have an income coming in because they have a job. I'm not sure how many people find themselves in that position, but if there are several out there, then of course that means that there are funds that could be going to other persons in need that others who may not necessarily need it are enjoying it. So we see now, and I'm not saying that this is being done because of that, but the tourism stipend has been moved to Border Control and Labor. And it reads, the Displaced Tourism Employee Stipend Program, launched and managed by the Ministry and Department of Tourism, is being managed by the Ministry of Border Control and Labor with effect from the 1st of January 2022. January's payment will be disbursed to previously approved and enrolled recipients with payout schedule for Friday, the 14th of January 2022. That is today. So The January payments will be made today, and they will be dispersed to previously approved and enrolled recipients. Individuals who receive direct bank deposits and those who receive check payments will continue to draw funds as previously arranged. Requests for a change from direct bank deposit to check will not be accommodated. Persons who have obtained employment must update the ministry by emailing stipend@gov.ky and indicating the words tourism stipend in the subject line. The ministry continues to encourage recipients to register with work, WORC, on the Jobs Cayman portal. Visit www.worc.ky and email jobscayman@gov.ky for assistance. And I'm inserting this here. There still continues to be some complaints about the jobs portal. And if we are going to place our confidence and rely on jobs, the Jobs Cayman portal, not only for employees, prospective employees, but also for prospective employers, that portal has to be monitored and adjustments have to be made to it to ensure that it is 100% effective. So I go on to read, in the coming weeks, the program will be reviewed and additional needs assessments will be conducted. Recipients will be advised by the end of next week of the new program requirement, to remain eligible for funding. New applications for this program are not being accepted at this time. And also says you can contact 649-6932 or email stipend@gov.ky and indicate the words tourism stipend in the subject line if you have any queries. So it is obvious that not only is the program being moved over to border control and labor, but applicants will be scrutinized much more closely, and it appears also as if emphasis will also be placed on getting some of those applicants into the workforce as well. Folks, top of the hour, 8 o'clock news. When we return, we should have the Leader of the Opposition and his deputy in the studio, so please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Radio Cayman time check is now 7:59. This time check is brought to you by our friends at Priced Right.
New year,
new deals at Priced Right.
Keep your New Year's goals in check with ProForm push-up stands, just $12.99, save $4. Or if DIY is more your thing, we have the Little Giant Mega Light Ladder for $209.99, save $70.
And if you're feeling musical, we've got the Casio 61-key portable keyboard for $139.99, save $45. K-Man, it's time to live better for less at Priced Right.
Price is good until January 19th, 2022. Find more deals at pricedright.ky.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Ottilia Newton reports 380 new positive PCR tests for COVID-19. The number of confirmed cases of the Omicron variant remains 132. However, the number of probable Omicron cases hit more than 2,000 during the reporting period. 10 COVID-19 patients were hospitalized as of midnight on Thursday. That includes 3 new patients. 11 new cases of COVID were reported in the sister islands. Cayman has stopped daily reporting of its COVID-19 data. The interim chief medical officer, Dr. Newton, says the report will now be issued weekly effective January 19th, documenting a epidemiological week from Saturday to Saturday as per international guidelines.
If you produce it on a daily basis, it's not very informative because the graphs do not change so much from one day to the next day. So by giving it once a week it's much more, it gives you more of an impact.
While Public Health will report a reduced number of statistics as it prepares for the first weekly report, officials say critical information will still be made available to the public as it occurs through government information services. In other news,
not having even an acknowledgement of the email makes it very hard for us to move forward.
Public Accounts Committee member Catherine Ebanks-Wilkes grilled the chief officer for the Ministry of Health on Wednesday for the department's failure to respond to the Auditor General's draft report on the Health Services Authority's outpatient pharmacy services or provide management responses to 3 recommendations directed to the ministry.
Why, as of today, you still have not provided a formal response on the recommendations?
While I do acknowledge that there has been a delay, I want to state from the outset that that is not something that we want to be doing. However, given what we're currently faced with, I'm sorry that those constraints have overpowered our ability to be able to provide timely response in these matters.
Nellie Pucci told members that delay is a combination of the ministry's ongoing work to battle COVID-19 along with staff shortages. However, she committed to providing the PAC with a formal response today and an implementation plan for the 3 recommendations, hopefully by the end of the first quarter of this year. One of those was that a revised and modernized Pharmacy Act be brought into force as soon as possible. Ms. Pucci provided an update on that front as well.
We have sent the draft Pharmacy Act to the new council for their comments. They have reviewed that. That has been returned to our ministry now. The Department of Health Regulatory has advised that they have received the comments from the council, and it's with them to be able to now bring to our ministry for further discussions.
Proposed revisions to the Health Practice Act have not yet been drafted. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Jerry Smith. Lawyers for Novak Djokovic are trying to stop him being deported after the government cancelled his visa for breaching COVID rules. The world's top men's tennis player, who hasn't been vaccinated, must attend an immigration hearing on Saturday. The Serbian tennis star had been due to defend his title at the Australian Open next week. The United Nations says at least 108 civilians have been killed by airstrikes in northern Ethiopia in the past 2 weeks. The UN Human Rights Office said 75 others have been injured in strikes allegedly carried out by the Ethiopian Air Force. The Ukrainian government has suffered a major cyber attack affecting several ministries. A message on some sites said the data of Ukrainians had been made public and people should expect the worst. In the past, Ukraine has blamed Russia for similar attacks. The Pentagon has said the US takes all threats by Iran seriously after an animated video depicting a drone attack on former President Trump was posted on the website of Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. The video has been posted on the 2nd anniversary of the assassination of the top Iranian military commander Qasem Soleimani, which was ordered by Mr. Trump. A Roman Catholic bishop in India has been acquitted of raping a nun in a case that has split the country's small Christian minority. Franco Mulakal was found not guilty by a court in Kerala. The nun said she'd gone to the police after her pleas to Catholic officials were ignored. BBC News.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Let me tell you something. I've been fishing our island since I was a boy, and it's getting harder and harder to get a good catch. Maybe it's because there are so many more people in Cayman than ever before. Maybe it's because of how the climate is changing. I don't know about that, but I do know that I want to be able to keep fishing and teach my children to fish one day as well. So it makes sense to me that we have certain areas and certain times of the year to fish for certain things. This year, a new rule was placed on fishing for grouper that says no one can fish for nass or grouper anywhere in Cayman from December 1st to April 30th while they're spawning. There is also no fishing allowed at all for any kinds of fish in the spawning zones, and no scuba diving there either. It feels unfair not to be allowed to fish where my daddy taught me to fish, but I know that being patient now means we can keep fishing for many more generations. We're all in this together, right?
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
It is on Radio Cayman. It is the rhythm of the Caribbean. This Saturday night.
Be sure to join your girl from the Brack, Susan, for Rhythms of the Caribbean.
She loves me now. Ooh, she loves me now.
The best in soca, calypso, reggae, dancehall, reggaeton.
Si necesita reggaeton, dale. Sigue bailando, mami, no pare.
Merengue, punta. You hear me?
It is on Radio Cayman. It is the rhythm of the Caribbean. This Saturday night.
Let's keep working together to protect our community by practicing social distancing, by wearing a mask, by washing our hands or using hand sanitizer, and by getting your booster. These simple actions save lives. Let's keep working together. For more information on COVID-19, visit www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
The 8:10 a.m. weather report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com.
For over 100 years, more than 5.8 million people across the Americas and the Caribbean have placed their trust in Pan American Life Insurance Group. We have delivered on our promise and have proven that we are more than an insurance company. We are family. To learn more about our first-in-class individual and group life, disability and accident solutions, please visit Pan American International Insurance Corporation at Unit 221, Cannon Place East, North Song Road, Grand Cayman, or contact us at 949-8304 and visit us online at www.palig.com. Pan American Life, people you can trust for life.
Okay, so good Friday morning, Cayman. Let's take a look at your latest weather conditions. Present temperature 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Conditions are partly sunny on the outside. Winds are out of the north at 5 miles per hour. Relative humidity 64%. Last night's low dew point was at 63. Not 69 as reported, at 63 last night. Was nice and cool. Barometric pressure is at 29.97 inches and dropping. Moderate northwest winds and slight seas are expected across the Cayman area during the day in association with a low-pressure system over the western Atlantic Ocean, with light northerly winds and smooth seas expected into the evening as the low-pressure system moves into the northern Atlantic Ocean. So our forecast for today calls for cloudy, partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 30% chance of morning showers. Temperatures will rise to the upper 70s. Winds will be northwesterly at 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. Then later this evening, fair to partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall to the low 70s. Winds will be north to northwest at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. High tide is coming up at 8:45 this morning. It's going to be low at 2:51 this afternoon and high at 7:41 this evening. For tomorrow, low tide will be at 2:16 a.m., high at 9:14 a.m., low at 3:14 p.m., and high at 8:09 p.m. Sunset this evening is at 6:06. Sunrise for Saturday morning at 7:02. The outlook is for light and variable winds with smooth seas over the weekend, with thunder showers expected from Sunday afternoon as a cold front expected to form over the Gulf of Mexico moves across the Cayman area. Moderate northerly winds with slight to moderate seas are expected by Monday morning as the front moves south of our area. That's your latest weather right here on your Radio Cayman. The 8:10 a.m. weather report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com.
For over 100 years, more than 5.8 million people across the Americas and the Caribbean have placed their trust in Pan American Life Insurance Group. We have delivered on our promise and have proven that we're more than just an insurance company, we're family. To learn more about our first-in-class group health and employee benefit solutions, please visit Pan American Life Insurance Company of the Cayman Islands at Unit 221, Cannon Place East, North Sound Road, Grand Cayman, or contact us at 949-8304. You can also visit us online at www.palig.com. Pan American Life, people you can trust for life.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by OnCourse Cayman. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
Achieving your goals is a very rewarding feeling, but at times can feel very frustrating, especially if and when we miss our target. As you approach your goals in life, set yourself up for success.
When setting your goals, celebrate your progress. It's important to acknowledge progress each step of the way as you achieve your goals. Everything that you do to move in that direction gets you a little closer. Planning small rewards along the way can help to keep things interesting and give us a taste of what sweet success will be like.
Change your thinking and change your life.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by OnCourse Cayman. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
These days, feelings of loneliness, anxiety, stress, and depression can be overwhelming. Just know you are not alone. OnCourse Cayman offers private mental health services for children, teens, adults, and groups. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Once again, my friends, good morning to you. Let's take a look at your traffic situation. Streets in Georgetown already getting a little more busy. Shuttard Road got some good movement of traffic. And of course, Godfrey Nixon Way already getting busy. Westward bound traffic onto Eastern Avenue. Butterfield Roundabout, of course, this morning time, very much busy with northward bound traffic. Turning east onto Northtown Road. And of course, a little bit of traffic along the Dorsey Drive area. If you're heading towards the airport, very little traffic to contend with. And of course, looking down at from the Ritz-Carlton, good flow of traffic along West Bay Road. Of course, coming out of the eastern districts, traffic is moving smoothly. Just looking at the east-west arterial, not much traffic there. And of course, looking out from the King Sports Center, if you're heading on to the Lidford Pearson Highway, good movement of traffic until getting closer to the Georgetown area. Expect some slight delays. Moving along Crew Road as well, similar. Turning on to Agnes Way, expect some traffic. And on to Crew Road, a little bit of westward bound traffic in the lane turning towards north, towards heading into Georgetown. For those continuing on to Huldah Avenue, via Elgin Avenue, Thomas Russell Way, expect some slight delays in that vicinity as well. Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, minimal traffic out that way, as it should be. And looking forward to the weekend. Of course, we'll have another traffic report for you just after 12 noon. The traffic report brought to you by our good friends at Subway.
At Subway, we caramel a lot about our customers, so we decided to give you 2 treats in one with the new Caramel Apple Cookie. Enjoy cinnamon apples, caramel bits, and salted caramel crunch baked in, and topped with a drizzle of caramel-flavored icing. Gooey, crunchy, and yummy. Complete your Subway sandwich, pizza, or salad with the delicious Caramel Apple Cookie or any other cookie flavor and dessert available for a limited time at all Subway locations. Subway. Eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
It's okay not to be okay. There's a lot to deal with right now. You may be feeling a bit scared, worried, or anxious. If you're feeling unable to cope or just want to talk to someone, please call the Mental Health Helpline at 1-800-534-6463, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Caring professionals are there to listen. For more information on COVID-19 and managing anxiety, visit www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning Honorable Roy McTaggart, Leader of the Opposition, and his deputy, Mr. Joey Hugh. Gentlemen, good morning. Happy New Year to you, and welcome back to For the Record.
And a very happy New Year to you too, OC, and to all the staff here of Radio Cayman. Happy New Year also too to the wider Cayman Islands, and delighted to be back with you so early in the new year.
Yes.
And look forward to other opportunities similar to this. So good morning to you too, and to everyone else.
Thank you.
Morning, OC. I joined the leader in wishing yourself and everyone here at Radio Cayman a Happy New Year, and for those across the island that have not had an opportunity to wish a Happy New Year to, and I trust everyone is settling into the new year and looking forward to a more positive future. My slogan this year is be positive, test negative.
Okay.
Like
that's a good one. That's a good one, yeah. And so much has happened already this year, and going on from the whole year as well. I'm sure that many people would say the holidays this time around were different from previous years as well. So we continue to see, some improvements despite, all of the challenges as well. But we're gonna start with the Leader of the Opposition and tell us exactly what has been happening in your camp.
In my camp, well, it was a relatively quiet Christmas, to be honest with you. And But this morning, OC, we really wanted to come and talk to you and to the wider public with regard to what we saw I think on the very first day back from the holidays with regard to the announcement or the article that appeared in the Compass with regard to the government talking of doing a proposed 30-year bond issue. Mm-hmm. I have to say that this really took us by surprise when we read it and saw it on the 4th. The notice was actually published on the government's bonfire procurement portal, and it was posted there on the 30th of December, so right at the year end. It was basically there in the public domain. Mm-hmm. But it was reported, I think, in the Compass on January 4th. I'm not sure how familiar the listening public might be with the actual notice that went out, but with your consent, so if you don't mind, I'll just read it.
Sure,
it will only take me about 2 minutes.
Of course, that will be the background information.
Yeah, and this gives good feeling for what is what's out there. Mm-hmm. It says notice of potential $400 million bond issuance in 2022. And invitations sought for financial advisor on the potential bond issue. So, and then it reads, the Cayman Islands is an overseas territory of the United Kingdom, and the government of the Cayman Islands, the government, is considering the possibility of issuing a 30-year, $400 million bullet bond in the U.S. capital markets by the second quarter of 2022. The government would seek to have the bond underwritten by a financial institution and benchmarked against the 30-year Treasury. The purpose of the bond issuance would be to provide for the general financing needs of the government and possible refinancing of existing public sector debt in the Cayman Islands. So the general financing needs first, seem to me secondary refinancing of debt. Mm-hmm. The Cayman Islands continues to hold an AA3 or AA3 stable rating issued by one of the foremost rating agencies in the market, Moody's. In 2021, Moody's assigned a AA3 stable rating with respect to any government-issued bond. The Cayman Islands has an estimated gross domestic product of approximately US $5.5 billion at the 31st of December 2020, and government's current debt to GDP ratio is approximately 4.7%. Mm-hmm. Government invites suitably qualified independent financial advisors to submit a proposal along with their experience to serve as board issue financial advisor for the potential bond issuance process. Proposing firms must have strong experience in providing bond issue financial advisory services for both negotiated and competitive transaction closings, which is envisaged to be during the period from the 1st of February to the 31st of May 2022, and then it gives the information there as to who the proposal should be submitted to. Mm-hmm. Now, I think really the first major concern we have here is just really to observe that, this was issued on the 30th of December, and we had just concluded Finance Committee, I think probably around somewhere around the 10th or somewhere during, it was in the second week of December. Yeah. So basically 2 weeks later, this is being issued. Nothing was ever said in Finance Committee, nothing raised, nothing said even in the halls of the Parliament about the potential issuance of this bond. So that really took us, really by surprise in terms of, something clearly with this being out there, it would seem to us that they're quite far advanced in, certainly in their own minds as to what they want to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And this wouldn't have been done without a cabinet approval somewhere along the way. So nothing was said in Finance Committee. There was no formal statement from government on their thinking prior to the notice coming out. And, they said nothing. I think late yesterday afternoon, CNS did carry an article with the response from the Minister of Finance, who I think was speaking to a press release that the Progressives sent out yesterday.
Yes, I did see that.
So they did put out a clarification. They said they were not, within a matter of days of this, this request going out, they issued a clarification saying that they were not actually looking to procure an advisor for the bond at this stage, despite the fact that the notice actually says they are. But they were looking for information only for market research purposes. So let me read you the addendum that was
which is a U-turn from the original.
Yeah, but this is where this just muddies the water as far as we were concerned. So it was issued and put on the Bonfire portal, and it says, "Please be aware that this notice is a request for information only and is not a procurement. As per the procurement regulations, a request for information is for market research purposes only, and no contracts will be awarded as a direct result of any response or submissions. Mm-hmm. Should CIG decide that any bonds or financial advisory services are necessary as a result of this market research, a procurement will be conducted at a later date for the provision of these services. So that's what went up on their website, the procurement, the bonfire portal, a few days later.
That correction, was it a misstep in the first instance in terms of the way that the advert went out, or there were second thoughts in terms of how we should go about doing this?
I really don't know, and it's difficult too without any explanation or unequivocal statement from the government. If I did read the minister's response on the article that was published on CNS yesterday, and he talked about what they would be using the money for. They want to do reverse mortgages and other things. So clearly, they are moving down a real, definitive path of trying to procure this 30-year bond. But yes, when this clarification was issued, I have to say I received 2 calls from people in financial services asking me if I had any idea what really was going on and what government's intent was. And this is because they said we have this thing which is looking to identify and potentially hire a financial advisor, and then you have this clarification that comes out and says no, we're not going that route. We're just looking for advice and for information. Well, you just have this lack of clarity, if I can put it in those words, with regard to this whole process as to what is government's real intention here. And I know that there have probably been a number of requests for clarity and clarifications made to the Ministry of Finance as well, because if I would get them, I know the ministry got to be getting them as well. And, we, as an opposition, we saw it, and we were taken aback by all of the developments, in particular with regards to lack of any understanding or statement from the government. We waited a week more than a week actually, before we put anything or said anything publicly in order to give government a chance and give them time to address or explain the matter. And so yesterday, in response to our expressed concerns, that the finance minister told Cayman News Service that the bond issue will enable government to restructure the public debt over a longer period and offer the flexibility it needs to meet the country's growing welfare costs. Now, that was his explanation yesterday.
For the benefit of our audience, what is the public debt at this point in time? Where are we? Because the bullet bond that we had, that was the previous government. You had sort of sorted that out and repositioned that. Do you know where we're at now as far as the public debt is concerned?
I don't know what year-end figures are, OC, but I can tell you it is substantially less than $250 million. We continued to pay down the public debt as in accordance with the contract. Yes. But under the terms of the standby emergency line of credit that I put in place, I think at the halfway point, government was obliged to borrow US $10 million in order to keep the line of credit alive, and they did that. Okay. So in order they can continue now out to the expiration date, I think, which is probably sometime in June, when it is. So, it's going to be the debt is likely less than $250 million.
Well, we did approve in Finance Committee the full drawdown of that, some $350 million from the line of credit that we had secured. So we're not sure where they are with that as well.
In terms of the drawdown?
As far as the drawdown, but that was approved as a huge part of their budget in financing majority of the capital projects. And that is what's very confusing and concerning about this bullet bond. And I think the leader will certainly explain to the listening public what a bullet bond means and how the cost of it going over the years before and who will have to actually pay it off. But we're not sure whether or not they're talking about the existing debt of 250 million plus the 350 or 300 more that they're going to draw down. So that's, 550 million? Are they going to add another 500 million? 400 million,
which would bring it up to about 900?
To about 900 million. I mean, are we talking about getting close to $1 billion in debt for the country? And it certainly sends out the signal that they're not looking to exercise the same level of fiscal prudence that we did over the last 8 years, but in fact, taking a 180-degree turn and going in the opposite direction and just borrowing without any thought of fiscal prudence. So, or managing their debt, managing spending, etc. So these are the things the questions that are left open. As the leader said, we just had finance committee. You know, if there was any indication or any thoughts of doing reverse mortgages, which I would have thought that was certainly something on our radar prior to the pandemic. I think the leader and I had several conversations on it, in fact. Why not put out an RFP or an RFI to the local institutions to offer proposals on reverse mortgages? I mean, we could be looking at government guaranteed versus government trying to run a reverse mortgage program. But there was more than ample opportunity in 4 very lengthy speeches by both the Premier and the Minister of Finance to explain these things and to talk about what their plans were and how they were going to finance it. So this is just very surprising at this point.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, I'd like you to explain to our audience reverse mortgages, the concept, what it entails. Folks, please stay tuned for the record with the Leader of the Opposition and the Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Will continue after this short commercial break.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, K-Man.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Thinking of getting a hybrid but don't know much about them? Vamp Motors has 3 great reasons why you should own the Toyota CHR. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries while being driven. So there's no need to plug in a hybrid, making it both economical and fun to drive. And you don't have to replace your battery every 2 years. The CHR Hybrid is reliable, providing up to 1 million kilometers on the same battery and engine. Oh, and now you can save $2,000 off the Toyota CHR, starting at only $33,500.
That's way more than 3 reasons.
True, but the best one is that it's on sale now. Test drive the Toyota CHR today at Vamp Motors, Walkers Road, while stocks last.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, the Leader of the Opposition and his deputy. And before we went to the break, I was asking them to explain the whole concept of reverse mortgage. But even before that, they will also want to explain the concept of a bullet bond and what that entails, what it involves.
Well, thank you again to OC. Let me address first what a bullet bond is. And it is a debt financing instrument that a country, or it could be a corporation, a company, enters into, whereby it borrows money from the capital markets, and the bond is payable in full, in one lump sum, at the maturity date of the bond. So we've had good experience, first-hand experience with a bullet bond, because you will remember the then government back in 2009 did a bullet bond of, I think it was like 312 million US or 256 million CI. That was, fixed for 10 years at an interest rate of just over 5.9%, if I remember correctly. So what happens in this situation is that, the borrower, which in our case is the government, they receive the funding and they pay interest on the full amount, the full borrowing. So over the period of 10 years, we paid interest on $312 million, which I think I did some back of the book calculation. Roughly around 180 million was probably paid on that over the life of it.
So the investors would get that on a regular basis.
Yeah, they get that
interest.
They get that interest every 6 months.
Okay.
Normally, it can be quarterly, but I think in our case it was every 6 months. So they get that interest, and then at the maturity date, then government must repay the $312 million, and that's simply how it works. Okay. So in the capital markets, it is extremely hard to find a bond where you actually pay down principal and interest over time, like a normal loan financing. It's almost unheard of. It's very rare. Won't say it's not possible, but I think they're extremely rare. And normally they would attract a higher rate of return in terms of the stated interest rate. So that's what this is. So to put this in context, what we're looking at is borrowing, in a region of $400 million US, and we wouldn't have to pay it back until 30 years down the road, in which in this case is going to be 2052. Now, I look at that and I say, boy, you're actually skipping a generation, because it's not going to be my children.
I'll be 101 years old then.
It's my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren that are going to be saddled with the repayment of this debt. And typically the way, in order for these things to work right, if you're going to do it right, if you have a bond like that, what you should be doing is setting aside a sinking fund. So every year you put away some money and put it aside, so that when the bond matures, you've got it to pay it off. We didn't do that the first time. Most governments don't do it anyway, because they just simply need the money for other things.
Yes.
So we didn't do that, and I recall quite clearly when we came into power in 2013, we were 4 years down the road, and we looked at what was there, and we realized hopelessly we would not be able to set aside $312 million US in 6 years effectively to be able to repay it. But, through our own prudence, we were able to pay down when it matured. We were able to pay down about half of it and refinance the rest. Yes. So, yes, it hit. The bond was repaid, but we did it by borrowing money as well to pay it down. But I mean,
so we weren't totally in the clear at that point.
No,
in time.
We're not,
we still have
and we
debt,
still won't be.
yes.
We're still paying for that debt of 2009. We'll be paying for it for the next 10 to 15 years.
Okay, wow.
I mean, so at the end of the day, we borrowed 2009. We won't finish paying for it for until I can't remember whether the refinancing was 10 or 15 years. I think it was 10. So another 10 years, 10, 15 years, and it is when it will be repaid. And so when you look at it stretching out 30 years, governments simply don't have the discipline normally don't have the discipline or ability to make those kind of annual funding requirements, to put it aside and not touch it. And this is why I personally prefer to go down the route of debt. of basically borrowing from the banks and stuff to do your financing, because you have to make those repayments every year. And the first thing you do when you set in your budget is set up your repayments, because that's a first call.
Yes.
And you have to satisfy those debts. So that, in a nutshell, is really how the bullet bond operates.
Okay.
Now let's talk about
reverse mortgages.
Or reverse mortgage, which is a different animal now.
Okay.
What that does is reverse mortgages are generally made available to and are most appealing to older persons.
Yes. You see a lot of those adverts on US TV.
Absolutely. And there's a reason for those things too, Rosie.
Yes.
But what a reverse mortgage does is allow older persons who are in retirement to access the value or the equity that they have in their homes, because by then their mortgages should have been repaid completely, and it allows them to access the value of their equity in their home and over their remaining life. And so what they will do is a lender. It's typically not a commercial bank. Commercial banks don't generally enter into reverse mortgages
because they don't want to own property. Really.
That's it. Basically, they become land and property owners. So it generally tends to be done privately, or some government agencies, particularly in the U.S., do make reverse mortgages, do engage in them, and I think maybe in Canada as well. But it's not. So what the bank will do is they look at your home. Your home's worth $100,000. They will lend you a percentage of that loan, of that value. And normally it's quite a low percentage. It may be, I'm guessing, but for information, just argument's sake here now, they will lend you maybe 50% of the value, right? And they will advance that sum to you over time, over several years or many years and then what happens is you don't have to make any payments during your lifetime. So the lender will actually recognize interest. He will add interest to the balance over the life of it, so that it builds up from that point onwards. Now, you can see what could potentially happen with that is that with the interest, you could get into situations where the loan might exceed the value of your property.
And if you're fortunate to live longer than expected, you could find yourself without a roof over your head at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Now, the contract will normally include, stipulations as to what happens upon your death or what could happen, who's allowed to stay in it after. But at the end of the day, that loan has to be repaid. And it's going to be repaid either somebody stepping in or to repay it from, the borrower's estate or something, or a family member, or the lender will take that home, sell it, and realize his the debt, and recover it.
Investment,
but the thing is, for the lender, they don't get any cash over the life of the they don't get any repayments over the life of that reverse mortgage. So it has its challenges. It is not a normal lending as such, and many countries, I know in the U.S., there are regulations, there's legislation surrounding it, governing how it can be done, because you can get very easily into problems with these sorts of things, and people can get to the end of their life and at that point, and if it's not structured properly, they can be, find themselves into difficulties as well. And so you don't just jump into doing a reverse mortgage. You need to look at it carefully and look now at what sort of legislation needs to be implemented in order to support it, give structure around it, who can do this type of lending, all that sort of stuff. So that's what a reverse mortgage is.
Okay. It's very similar. There have been a lot of calls over the years where government is providing permanent financial help to elderly people who have, because the family law says if you have children who are capable, that they should take care of you. That's actually in the law. And what we find a lot of times is that is not happening, and then the elderly people are suffering. So government then has to make a decision and needs assessment, has to make a decision, okay, we can't allow this person to suffer, we put them on permanent financial help. And that is $900 a month now, I think it is.
Okay.
There's been a lot of calls in those cases that government should then put a lien on the property because those children will benefit from the property when their parents pass, but they're not assisting their parents now while they're alive, and government is having to do that. So there was a lot of, it's very similar in a sense, if you think about it, that government's already providing permanent financial help to persons who have properties, who have a home, but with no returns to government. Once a person passes, then the estate goes to their family, and they receive the financial benefit of the property or whatever. So, that's essentially what government is saying now, is to turn that into a formal arrangement under the heading of a reverse mortgage. Where government is actually lending the individual the money, then receives the funding back. Whether it's with interest or not, we don't know any of the details once that person has passed away.
Got you. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, I want to talk a little bit about how persons, and you touched on it, Mr. Hugh, how persons find themselves in that situation. We know from anecdotal evidence that most financial institutions in the Cayman Islands, when you apply for a mortgage, they want to ensure whatever they're going to loan you, they want to ensure that is repayable on or before you reach retirement, realizing that after retirement, your ability to pay is likely to be less. So how do people find themselves in this situation if they have loans from financial institutions where they're retiring, but they still have large outstanding mortgages as well? Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Are you feeling sick, but don't feel ill enough to go to the doctor? Ask your pharmacist for advice. Here at West Bay Pharmacy, our pharmacists have been trained to offer helpful, easy-to-understand advice on the treatment of everyday minor ailments for yourself and all the family. Anything from headaches, cough and sore throat, to cold sores, our pharmacists will know when medical help is needed and will not hesitate to refer you to your doctor if your symptoms demand it. Like doctors, our pharmacists have a professional code, which means all personal information you give them will be treated in the strictest confidence. Visit us today at West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Thank you, Cayman blood donor community. You answered the call at a time most critical, the holiday season. You came, you gave, you saved, you gifted. The National Blood Bank welcomed over 60 pints. Your pint, your gift of value beyond calculation. Thank you, dear blood donor. Thank you, staff of the HSA National Blood Bank. Thank you, nurses, physicians, housekeeping, admin staff, EMTs who worked tirelessly throughout the holidays, saving lives, using your pint, your gift of love to save lives. Thank you, Radio Cayman. Thank you, Health Minister Turner, for sounding the clarion call. A message from Rotary Central Community Service and the Cayman Blood Donor Service. Rotary serves to change lives.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Leader of the Opposition and Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Before I go back to you, I just want to, so that we ensure that we have a balance in terms of the discussion, I'll just share a portion of the Cayman News Service article that the Leader of the Opposition referred to, and a statement attributed to Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance, the Honourable Christopher Saunders. And it says that Saunders told CNS that PACT is considering offering retired homeowners reverse mortgages as a way of helping them access their own equity and reducing their dependence on financial support from government. Given that Caymanians are forced out of work at 65 on inadequate pensions, the welfare bill will continue to grow. So that's one clarification that he gave there. I don't know if you want to comment on that before we talk about how do people find themselves actually in situations. And
yeah, I mean, and I've heard, I saw that, and when I read it, that is one of the things that they are considering. And if you remember in my earlier statement, I urged caution because I think these are not straightforward lendings.
Yes.
And they need to be structured properly, and there needs to be processes, regulations and whatnot surrounding it as to what really, how it should work and what should happen and what can be done. So from that standpoint, I get it. What I don't get is why do we need 30-year money to do it? We are a country with a debt to GDP ratio of 4.7%. We are within the top 10 of countries with the least amount of debt to GDP. We truly are. I think when I last checked, we were at like number 4 or 5. Wow. I mean, it's an enviable position. A country in that position don't need to be borrowing 30-year money, OC. Not under any circumstances. That is, to me, that is just not good financial planning or financial sense.
And
go ahead, Joey.
No, I was just going to say on that comment, and I remember the discussions. It was in the administration 2013 that we raised the retirement age, and during that discussion, it was that understanding that our pension regime needs some adjustment, but as well that it's quite a young regime, that we need to give those persons who came into started to draw on pensions or participate in a pension scheme later on, that those additional years to work, if they wish to work, to continue to prepare for retirement. And then, of course, as time goes on, those persons will retire and move on, and we would hope that, and we would do everything as a government to ensure that our younger people are employed, have stable employment and will participate, and hopefully we will improve the pension regime that when they reach 65, that they do have a decent pension to draw on.
Right.
So this is not something that I believe is a 30-year problem. If the issue has to do with COVID, they made it very clear during the budget that debate that they had funding in there to cover COVID-related instances. Everything was ballooned, and when you ask the question, as I did during Finance Committee, for COVID. So we have that covered. What is the government's views and when will we recover? How long are they thinking it's going to take us 30 years to recover from COVID? Is it going to take us 30 years to replace that 20% of the GDP that we missed from tourism? I don't think so. So what is it? Why are we going into this? And OC, they made it very clear on numerous occasions that the budget that they passed, or we passed, and we voted against the borrowing, but the budget that was passed in Parliament in December was a people's budget. All of the capital projects were being financed by the $350 million drawdown. And all of that money that would have normally, that we used for capital projects and for social programs, etc., they've removed the capital projects and have now put the remainder of the budget into social programs. So they have borrowed for capital and they have massively increased their funding for social programs. So I'm confused now why we feel that we need even more. Or again, we need that clarity to understand what is the thinking here. But it comes right down again to we are extremely concerned about our future, the future of the country, our children's future, our grandchildren's future, if we continue to just take the position that we just borrow, and entering to agreements such as these bullet bonds that will have to be paid off by future generations.
Okay, and here's an additional quote by the Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance. He's quoted as saying, we are concerned about the growth in the level of spending on social welfare, especially for the elderly. Goes on to say, he said, the government wants to offer those who own their own homes reverse mortgages that can support them through retirement. to do that, we need to restructure the debt and for over a longer period as well. Comments?
I just don't get that, OC. If we were a far more indebted country, if we owed $1 billion, like, or 1.3, like, Bermuda or something like that, then I could understand that. But we have a very low debt level.
Yes.
And we have a huge flexibility. I mean, we've got this emergency standby line of credit in place. That's what we put it in place for. It wasn't to be used for capital projects or for operational expenditure. It was to be used in an emergency. And, thankfully, through good management, we have seen up to now, a year into this, and we haven't had need to really draw on it. As I mentioned before, we drew down $10 million, I think it was last August or September, on it because that was a requirement of the loan. But yeah, we don't have need for it. And given the fact we're now in another new year, all of, government now in January becomes extremely flush with cash. So what I can see unfolding right now, what appears to me to be unfolding, is that the emergency line of credit will, expires, I think, sometime in June. And so it'll either have to be renegotiated or they take out some fresh debt there. But they have the approval. So it's, but again, I keep going back to this thing of borrowing money for 30 years. It isn't needed. I don't see the justification for having to go for that. I mean, last year, Bermuda themselves, they did a $1.35 billion bonds last year. They split it into two tranches. Half of it was 10-year money at, I think it was 2.375%. And the other half of it was 30-year money at 3.375%. Bermuda's a country roughly at the same size and same level of economic activity as we are, but their debt is is several million, several billion dollars, not millions. So I mean, there really is no comparison there.
Okay.
I think I've exhausted that.
And we'll go to another line. We're going to go to our headline news at 9 o'clock. When we return, based on both of your experience in government, in cabinet, and also as Minister for Finance, I want you to speculate as to how much of this would have been sounded out through the UK at this point in time, how much needs to be, what approval we will need from the UK to go to the extent that is being suggested at this point in time. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back immediately after headline news.
Let me tell you something. I've been fishing our island since I was a boy, and it's getting harder and harder to get a good catch. Maybe it's because there are so many more people in Cayman than ever before. Maybe it's because of how the climate is changing. I don't know about that, but I do know that I want to be able to keep fishing and teach my children to fish one day as well. So it makes sense to me that we have certain areas and certain times of the year to fish for certain things. This year, a new rule was placed on fishing for grouper. It says no one can fish for nass or grouper anywhere in Cayman from December 1st to April 30th while they're spawning. There is also no fishing allowed at all for any kinds of fish in the spawning zones, and no scuba diving there either. It feels unfair not to be allowed to fish where my dad taught me to fish, but I know that being patient now means we can keep fishing for many more generations. We're all in this together, right?
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman, one radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Government reported 380 new cases of COVID-19 on Thursday night, including 11 in the Sister Islands. While the number of confirmed cases of the Omicron variant remains 132, the number of probable cases has spiked to more than 2,000. Australia has again revoked the visa of unvaccinated tennis star Novak Djokovic, this time on, quote, health and good order grounds. The world's #1 men's tennis player faces deportation and a 3-year ban on obtaining a new visa. He will be detained on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. local time, but his lawyers are lodging appeals, and at a late-night court hearing, Australia agreed not to deport him yet. The tennis player's team says his visa was canceled not on health grounds, but because Djokovic might, quote, excite anti-vax sentiment. Djokovic is scheduled to play in the Australian Open on Monday night. The Serb had his first visa revoked on January 6th amid questions over a vaccine exemption he'd received. Those are your headlines. I'm Kersley Fuller.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio K-Man on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio K-Man app or log on to our website, radiokman.gov.ky.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio K-Man.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, the Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Roy McTaggart, and Deputy Leader, MP, Mr. Joey Hugh. Before I throw the mic back over to them, I'm going to share another portion of this CNS article. This paragraph talks about, it says, Saunders explained that banks will not offer reverse mortgages to pensioners, and that in order for government to do so, it needs to borrow over a longer term than the current 15 years, which is why the Finance Ministry is examining the idea of a bond to enable greater flexibility and probably much better terms. Minister said that the credit facility negotiated by the previous government has been fixed at 3.2%, but given the low cost of borrowing at present, he believes government can improve on that significantly. And then the article goes on to speak about what you spoke earlier, Mr. Leader. According to a request for information on the government procurement website, the ministry is looking for independent financial advisors to serve as consultants for issuing a 30-year, $400 million bullet bond in the U.S. capital markets in the second quarter of this year. And of course, you have pointed out that a correction now has been made in terms of what the government is actually seeking, and not necessarily at this point in time financial advisors.
Yeah, well, that seems to be clear with that clarification. But again, it doesn't, in my mind, detract from what they have here in the original request. I mean, there's some specific timelines there that I just feel is just completely unrealistic and unachievable to think you're going to put a bullet bond in place by the end of May. It don't happen that quick. And, other bankers have said, to confirm what I was saying as well, have said that this can't happen this quickly. So they are, even if the minister can make a case for borrowing 30-year money to do this program, it don't need to be $400 million. Mm-hmm. And they really need to define more clearly what it is they are thinking, what it is they are doing, because right now what I see here is very imprecise. It is just very, it lacks in any real detail as to what the real, and certainly it lacks in a lot of specifics with regard to what it is they're going to be doing if they're going to try to put this together and get it done before the end of the second quarter of this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, this listener has written in, and maybe they hadn't heard your explanation earlier. It says, please ask your guest, is the PAC government planning to keep the $315 million line of credit and also do a new $400 million bond as well?
And I think that's a good question, and that's where we lack the clarity as to whether when we approved the drawdown of the line of credit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my on balance, I would say that their intention is to draw down that line of credit before it expires, and then if they are going to refinance, that it would be this debt that they would refinance if they are able to get a better interest rate than what this is committed to, the 3.25%.
Because if we take the CNS article and the comments from the minister for face value, they have already approval in Finance Committee to draw down on the $350 million of borrowing. As we said, we didn't hear anything about reverse mortgage schemes or anything like that. And he's saying that they need to do this in order to enter into programs such as reverse mortgages, etc. So that sounds like an additional program than what was proposed in the budget in November, December. And the borrowing is $400 million US, which is 320. Somewhere around 320 CI.
Uh-huh.
Again, so that's even less than what was approved in Finance Committee, so or in the budget. So it for me, on face value, it and with the wording in the initial RFP, which spoke to general financing needs. The bond is for general financing needs and possible existing debt. So this sounds as if it's either going to be additional or split with.
Yeah.
Perhaps they will only draw down on a portion of the $350 million and then add the additional $320 million or $400 million US dollar bond to that. We don't know, but certainly from his comments on face value, it would speak to additional monies over and above what was approved in Finance Committee, which means it would have to come back to the House to Finance Committee for additional borrowing.
Yeah, I think even a refinancing, anything like that would have to come back to Finance Committee for approval, because they disaggregate it. You have to look at the repayment, and then there is a fresh borrowing that requires financial approval from Finance Committee.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And in this case, too, I'm pretty certain it would require approval from the Foreign Office in the UK for us to engage in it as well.
Okay.
So, and also, we have to remember as well, we'll see why we're raising this alarm so early, is, as we discussed during the break, these sorts of bullet bonds, etc., and what the RFP actually speaks for consultants, millions and millions and millions of dollars potentially could be spent just to get to the point where they find a lender, then have to get through cabinet, come to Finance Committee, etc. So potentially, we could go down the road of spending millions and millions of dollars and on top of the borrowing before even getting approvals. And these are why we're saying they need this kind of thing hitting bonfire during the Christmas period without a comment. Such a major piece of borrowing without comments from the government leaves you suspicious.
Yeah.
It leaves you very suspicious. And they need to be upfront with the public. They need to come out and tell the public. They don't need to tell the opposition anything, but come out and tell the public what your plans are and what you're doing, and explain to them why and how you're going to do it. They had more. I keep going back to this because we all are sitting in Finance Committee worried about getting through our Christmas programs and everything else, and we sat down and listened to at least 4 very lengthy speeches by the Premier and the Minister of Finance. And in no time did they give any details about this. So these are the things that are making us ask the questions. And I think they need to get out in front of this and explain it to the public.
Okay, we do have a caller. Let's grab the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Leader of the Opposition and Deputy Leader.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I wanted to make a brief comment because I have some experience in the marketplace. I was the treasurer for General Motors Corporation when they had the office here for 10 years. And we did have activities within the marketplace, but that's not what I want to call to boast about. What I want to say is that there is an adage that says it is very easy to spend money that is not yours. Right now, in the Cayman Islands, we have a very robust and very resilient and dynamic country that makes, without much effort, really, makes revenue year on year of some $700 million, and that's fantastic. And our market ratings is gilt-edged. It would be easy to go and borrow $400 million within the marketplace on a bond, but I would remind everyone that the last global meltdown in 2008 was caused by banks making unhealthy loans, reverse mortgages included, and it all came to a halt, and it caused a tremendous downslide within the marketplace. My concern is that because of our tremendous financial grade that we have in our credit rating, it would be quite easy to borrow that kind of money. But the problem is that it would be so easy that it will have the temptation of encouraging someone else in future years to even borrow more on top of that, because as long as you're repaying the interest and stuff, everything is quiet. Unlike a bank loan, however, where you can probably privately go and do a sort of refinancing, if you have a bond in the marketplace and you miss a payment, you go from your gilt-edge rating to just another so-called person that was in the market at one stage, and your credit rating goes, very low into junk, into near junk status, and then you are left with 10, 15 years of trying to rebuild that credit rating that you once had. So whilst the objective of this idea may be quite commendable, my caution or my call is just to be very cautionary, because, as I said at the outset, it's very easy to spend money that's not yours, and I think it might be very easy also to go into the marketplace and borrow $400 million because of our credit financial standing and credit rating within the bond market. But for the life of me, no one in 1929, the global economy was booming too. No one saw the 1929 crash coming. And once you go onto the marketplace, if you can't pay, if you have a downturn and you can't pay your interest on your bond, it becomes public knowledge. It's out there in the public, and then you suffer the consequences year on year, because it probably has a ripple effect on your borrowings locally as well, and so we must be very careful about trying to solve a possible dilemma. Yes, but I'm not sure that I am fully on board of these massive borrowings. I would say though that I think we need to address the retirement age in the statutes of the working man, the working woman, working man, because I think we are living longer, and people are not. When you say that officially you retired at 65, a person such as myself, over the age of 60, if I go to the bank to try and borrow money, they'll say, yes, you can borrow money, but you got to pay it back in 5 years or 4 years because you're retiring at 65. So we need to address that issue But I just want to end like how I've begun, very cautionary. We have to be very, very careful. Yes, we have a very robust creature right now that brings in $700 million without much effort. But, we cannot saddle the country with $400 million. And as I said, we might find that if that was to ever happen, that amount of money could be easily raised. But then it will lead to temptations of borrowing more. And before you know it, we are in deep, deep, deep financial problems.
Caller?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, give you an opportunity to respond to that caller. And also, I think I asked the question earlier in terms of the UK and whether or not what approval we will need, from them. Where are we, as far as our borrowing and our borrowing guidelines are concerned, and also recognizing that there's only one government at a time. Whether or not you want to tilt your hand and say, if you were in government and you found yourself in this position at this point in time, what would be the measures that you would take, either corrective or otherwise, to address the situation that we find ourselves in, or that we could potentially find ourselves in? Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Thinking of getting a hybrid but don't know much about them? Vamp Motors has 3 great reasons why you should own the Toyota CHR. Hybrid save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries while being driven. So there's no need to plug in a hybrid, making it both economical and fun to drive. And you don't have to replace your battery every 2 years. The CHR hybrid is reliable, providing up to 1 million kilometers on the same battery and engine. Oh, and now you can save $2,000 off the Toyota CHR, starting at only $33,500.
That's way more than 3 reasons.
True, but the best one is that it's on sale now. Test drive the Toyota CHR today at Vamp Motors, Walkers Road, while stocks last.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Roy McTaggart, and Member of Parliament and Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Joey Hugh. Any comments in relation to the caller before we go on to where we are as far as our borrowing ratios and everything, and whether or not any UK approval will be
Well, I think the first real comment I would say is in relation to what the caller had to say was that he's dead right, that we would have no problem. If we get into the market, we'll have no problem raising this money. Given all that we have, the state that government's finances are in right now, the fact that we do have a AA3 rating, which incidentally is the same rating as the United Kingdom government. Now, they were AA2 before, but within the last year or two, their debt, I think, was downgraded to AA3. So, we'll have no issue whatsoever with raising the money. In fact, I think it will be oversubscribed quite handsomely. But we do need, in order to effect any new borrowing, we will need to have approval of the the Foreign Office or by the UK government in order to effect that borrowing. And that was one of the beauties too that we had with regard to the letter of credit that we put in place. We could proceed to put that in place without the approval of the UK government. Now, mind you, while we did not need approval, we did let them know what we were doing, and so we basically had their blessings to do that. Mm-hmm. But in order to draw on it, I think they do need to have approval. Okay. They may have already have gotten that with regard to the 10 million that we have drawn down on that as well. So it's some good observations from him. I mean, you got to be careful. I mean, this is government money. He's right. It's not their money.
It's easy to spend other people's
It's easy for them to spend it.
And it's very easy for one government to say, you know what, let's borrow it and do what we need to do, and then governments down the road will have to deal with it. Let them deal with it. But I caution you, it's not governments down the road. It's going to come out of our pockets, our grandchildren. And as you said, rightfully said, if we live long enough to see this bond mature, they're going to have to find the money in some possible way. And you can't rely on future governments without it actually being some sort of law to put aside a sinking fund, because every government gets in there wants to do what.
Yeah, they have their programs in place. They have their
programs in place, and everybody has their wish lists. And we had some tough budget discussions. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was a lot that we wanted to do. I was only a minister but I was only really a minister for 1 year of regular government. The rest of the time was during COVID. Uh-huh. But, there was a lot of things we wanted to achieve as well. But we had to sit down as a group, prioritize what we think was it achievable? Is this achievable during the term? And B, is it a priority of the people of the Cayman Islands? And then you make a decision based on that. And everyone could not get everything they wanted. But it seems as if this government has said that under the umbrella of the people's budget, that they're going to give, every minister is going to get what they want because they're going to spend it on the people. But the people are going to have to pay back for it too. That's a problem. And I think that call is absolutely right. And as the leader said, it's easy to spend other people's money. It'll be somebody else's problems. But the bottom line is it'll be our children and our grandchildren's problems.
Mm-hmm. And there is one other anecdote that I hold near and dear to my heart. And I always used it in terms of decision-making I made within government as Minister of Finance. Is a government cannot spend what it first has to take from someone else. Mm-hmm. So it's taking it from one hand and using it to spend on another. So all this debt, you rack it up, you got to come out of our pockets. Yep.
No other place to get it from. Yeah,
so. You can't spend what it doesn't first take from someone else. Mm-hmm. And so I just thought that always just sits, it being frames every decision that I made in terms of when it came to looking at government's budget.
Okay. Now, I know the deputy wants to touch on some other issues as well. So we have about 5 minutes before we go to the commercial break. So if we can cover, looking into the crystal ball, if you were in government, find yourself in the same position as we are now, what policies would you have continued in terms of what you, while you were in government, or what corrective measures and actions you would have seen necessary at this point in time?
Well, at this point in time, OC, I mean, I think it is absolutely essential. Government has to continue with the support that they are providing to the community, the business community and individuals, who are displaced. That has to continue. And so those policies are absolutely essential. But I would look more closely at managing the cash, because in situations like this, I said this many times when I was in office, it's all about managing your cash. Mm-hmm. And, we have the standby line of credit. We're right there. I would seek to renew that for a further term and then do as we had said. We only draw it down if we need it. Okay? Now, I would never, ever have gone to what they have done here, and that is go from fully financing capital projects from operating revenues to financing it through debt. I don't think that was necessary, because what that did was that gave them, if you look at it, they're spending $300 million. That if we were in power, that $3 million would have come out of $100 million would have come out of operating revenues, or some figure that we would have been able to afford. Okay, so that freed up, many tens of millions of dollars to allow them to go on this spend. Well, I described it as a spending spree over the next 2 years. I think they could have done a better job of managing it, prioritizing things like my deputy said, particularly on things like the capital budget. You don't get everything done in 2 years. You got 4 years to go. So, you take it and you plan it and you prioritize it and you string it out over that period. That way you can manage the cash flows much better. And perhaps you don't need to borrow what you have there set aside to be able to borrow. You need something far less than that. And, I think that's sort of the approach that I would have taken were I there. So I guess I am speculating, but those are the sort of principles we would have operated under.
I also, every chance I got during, reminded those who are now in the government that were in opposition. And because I vividly remember every opportunity the opposition got, they would shout across the floor, "Why are you holding up the people's money? Spend the people's money, because we had a surplus. Give the people their money, spend it on them." And our response was, you have to save for a rainy day. And COVID came. And like I said in my budget debate, it wasn't a rainy day, it was a Cat 5 hurricane.
Yeah.
And we are in the position we're in as a country right now, the strong position, post-COVID, as the pandemic continues, compared to everywhere else. And the decisions that we were able to make because of the strength of our financial position was because we saved for a rainy day. And we had to, we were pressured by the blogs, we were pressured by people on the street, spend it on the people. And when we went into finance, when we were discussing our budget, no, we were not touching. We were continuing to grow our general reserves. And so it's important that we remember that where we are today and how we got here. And it was through prudent fiscal financial management. That is how we got here.
Okay, we have 2 callers on hold. So, Paul, we will take the break then at 1:45, and we'll continue on. Let's grab the callers. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Okay, good morning, caller. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning, OC.
Good morning. How are you?
Not too bad. And good morning to you, I guess.
Morning.
Yes. OC, I didn't really catch all of the discussion this morning, but one thing that I gathered is that the 2 guys that you have as guests there, though, they were in the government before. They lost the government. And it seems to me that they still want to run the government even though they lost. Now, I say that to say this. The country, we're in a situation right now, no one predicted this, that we would ever get to this stage. But Cayman, being in the financial situation, as rated amongst into the top 10 when it comes to finance, and the amount of billionaires that is trying to get to Cayman, and this government that is in power now, they're seeing it necessary. And not because this opposition government don't see the full details. They did not show the people the full details of all the their borrowings. And if they did, I didn't see it or heard about it or read about it. Now, this situation with the government that's in power now is borrowing this money is to make the lives of the people in the Cayman Islands much better. Even though we're going through this situation with the pandemic, we have to have the money. And if we do not have the money or find ways and means to borrow the money, then where will we end up at, or the country will end up at? We have to. And I got stress enough. If this government, these 2 gentlemen were in power, they would not be given the full details about the financing that they were borrowing to the people, like how they want to be able to discuss. Now that this government see it necessary, and I for one see it necessary, that the government borrow as much as they can borrow, because this pandemic is not ending now. So if they want to sit back and criticize the government for that, let them continue to do it. But if they do it, guaranteed, they don't get back in power. And number one, they put the speaker in power again, a man that should never be there. And they don't have no respect for the government or the people of the Cayman Island government. Because, and the speaker do not have any. Because if he had any self-respect, he wouldn't be there. He wouldn't allow himself to be there. But you know why? Because of the money, the big bags of money that each and every one of them, the previous government and the speaker, they want to make sure that they get their big bag of money, and the people of the Cayman Islands suffer. We cannot suffer no longer. We have to borrow the money. And they get it through their head. That is what we have to do. The better off we will be.
Got you, caller. Thank you very much for that. Want to respond?
Yeah, well, I mean, just a couple observations. If I can, remember all the points and accusations that he hurled at us. Yes, I mean, I'm no longer part of the government. I'm no longer on the government bench, but I am in the opposition. And as leader of the opposition, as deputy leader sitting across me, we got a job to do.
And you have constituents.
And that seems to have completely missed him. I got constituents I'm responsible to and for. And so I will continue, as long as I'm here in this position, to try and fulfill my role and my responsibility to the best of my ability. I didn't find no playbook when I came in here as leader of the opposition to tell me how to do it, and anything else to go with it.
And your comments on the term that he say that we need the money now.
He doesn't offer any advice, and I would argue against it, that we don't need it now. If we had, we would have drawn down on the emergency line of credit that I put in place, and it just doesn't. And so he says we haven't been transparent in telling the country about our borrowing.
Because we didn't borrow. We didn't borrow.
It's just very simple. The only thing I did was refinance the existing debt that we had. I mean, so we borrowed no money. I don't know where he is coming from with that.
And when we put the existing line of credit as emergency for COVID, one thing they cannot say about our government was that we did not inform on what we were doing during COVID. We had a press conference every week that we were in power, informing and giving good notice, due notice, days notice for feedback and stuff before we changed regulations, before we did things like this, so that people had an opportunity to provide feedback. And then I have said it many times in the show, several times, good feedback was received and taken on board before we finalized the regulations or whatever we were changing. So,
see, I won't go back to something.
Sure.
Honestly, Joey, just hold on. But someone just sent me this note here from when Bermuda refinanced their debt, and they actually did quite a bit of borrowing as part of that. I think it was like $500 million of additional borrowing. And it reads this. It said, Mr. Dixon said the increase in Bermuda's debt meant that the annual debt service cost is currently $127.2 million, claiming 13.6 cents of every dollar of revenue that government takes in. The level of debt service has the potential to displace spending in critically important areas such as education, social services, and national security. I read that and I share that with the public, and I say, thank God we're not in that position. And we don't need to be.
Okay. We have two callers. Let's grab those callers, and then we go to the commercial break. We're going to cut the callers off after the commercial break, Paul, because there's a subject that the deputy leader wants to touch on as well. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, Mr. O.C. Good morning to Mr. McTaggart, and good morning to my good friend, Mr. Hugh.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
How's it going, Judge?
Okay.
Good morning.
Happy New Year to you.
Same to you and your families.
Okay.
been listening with great interest, and believe it or not, I share some of the similar concerns. I'm a fiscal conservative. I believe that you don't borrow until you need, but I think the caveat and something that the public needs to be aware of, and definitely Mr. McTaggart will appreciate this. Right now, interest rates are so low that this is probably, if you're going to contemplate borrowing, this is probably the right time in which to do so. Refinancing debt and trying to figure out or deploy strategies to address that issue is something that everybody in government or in the Ministry of Finance, I would think, would consider. But I do appreciate the perspective being offered by Mr. McTaggart and the opposition. And I would go as far as to say this. This is precisely the job of the opposition, to effectively question and to try and counter or offer some sort of salient sort of point and advice to the government. This is why they're elected. This is why they get paid. So this is what the game of politics is about. However, I will say this. Be careful when proclamations are made that we have been a transparent government. Yes, the management of COVID, I give the opposition, the Premier at the time, Mr. McLaughlin, kudos for his management of an unprecedented crisis that nobody saw coming or could predict from one day to the next how to deal with it. That was, I think, the highlight of his leadership over his 20-odd years as an elected official. However, I would say it's important to not beat up or take a position of being self-righteous when you're in the opposition on certain matters, because to date, the two gentlemen in the studio who are elected to do their job, none of them can say to us or share with us over the last 8 years, and in particular the last 4 years, the total value of concessions that were agreed and given to various people, especially in the construction industry, by the former Minister of Planning. The total value of those concessions at a time when Cayman is in an economic construction development boom. We have instances whereby same individual, my good friend Mr. Hugh, is on the floor of the LA saying that he cannot disclose any details of certain development agreements because they're confidential. So to date, nobody, especially the two gentlemen in the studio over the last 8 years, can say to us what have they agreed to give away in the form of concessions. And concessions represent current and future revenue for the Cayman Islands government, and those things are done at a time to wealthy developers who are already profitable with their projects. They were given concessions for whatever they felt necessary because they were friendly with the government. I know for a fact some of those same developers helped to finance campaigns and so on and so forth, but you can't talk about transparent and doing the right thing long term, fiscally and financially, when you have effectively hidden from the public deals that you've made. The previous administration pursued a cruise berthing project that resulted in expenditure of $11 million on a project that was always doomed for failure. So let's just balance the score sheet and recognize I don't necessarily agree because I don't have all of the details of what is being proposed by the current administration, and I fully appreciate the points that have been made by Mr. McTaggart, and in some ways I agree with them, but I think it's a bit much to speak out of both sides of your mouth when the political track record clearly states the PPM did not operate in a transparent manner. There were deals that were...
Caller, you're repeating yourself now. We're going to try to get to other callers, and I'm going to give them an opportunity to respond to you as well. Paul, do we have another caller on hold? So thank you, caller, for that. Listening for their response. We're going to grab the next caller. Last caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. McTaggart, as early as August 2020, I was on your tail about not getting the country into debt, and I appreciate your desire to keep us out of too much debt, because that will be our destruction. And I was a bit I appreciate the exercise of restraint in relation to the drawing down of that line of credit. But the problem is that you can't control future governments. And so when future governments decide to go on a spending spree with something that you originally intended to not be utilized to its max, it puts us all at risk. And I really worry about the idea of us getting into these very long-term things without proper rules first being established. I hope and I pray that we don't go down the road of massive debt. What we should be doing, I won't get into the details, but what we should be doing is learning to live with this virus and get on with our lives. This current situation is absolutely unsustainable. It's unprecedented. It cannot work. It will destroy our economy. It will destroy small businesses. Only the wealthy will have an opportunity to own what the middle class and the smaller businesses that have been lost in society, they will have the opportunity to gain those in the future. And you will have the super rich and poverty. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. Paul, let's take that break now, and then Mr. Hugh. Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Hugh. When we return, we'll hand the mic over to you to cover the other issues that you want to cover as well. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, K-Man.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Roy McTaggart, Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Member of Parliament, Mr. Joey Hugh. We have closed the phone lines off at this point in time to give our panel an opportunity to respond to the callers as well as to touch on other areas that they want to as well. Over to you, Mr. Hugh.
Thank you. I'm not going to spend too much time. I want to thank the callers for their calls and their points and their views. The one caller on talking about the concessions, I think I have responded to that caller throughout the campaign on several occasions. It seems as if the campaign is continuing. But when I was asked about confidential agreements, or when I responded to the question in the Legislative Assembly at the time, it was not about agreements that we entered into. It was about previous agreements. As I said to the person asking the question, it was Mr. McLean. I said, these were agreements that you signed when you were minister that have confidentiality clauses in them, not agreements that I entered into confidentially. I also said at that time that I had not, and I did not, for my 4 years as minister, enter into any financial concessions for anyone. And so I've made that very clear on several occasions. The only thing that I ever did was to renew concessions, that primarily because the planning process took so long that the concessions were expiring and we had to renew certain parts of it.
Okay.
The other thing I want to say to him and to the general public is that an FOI was made just before we demitted office and I'm sure for the campaign. And they found that we had done one concession. It made the front page of the newspaper. It was done during the 2013 regime. And so it has been in the public domain for some time now. So it just continues to speculate. But CNS did a very good job of covering that FOI request. So I'll leave that as it is, Mr. Leader.
Yeah, no, I think that nothing really to add to what you said. I mean, but I do recall, back in 2017 administration, number of, I wouldn't say a number, but I know of at least one concession that was granted. It was an effort made to try and get some economic activity going because of the financial crisis. Economic active country was in the doldrums, really. The only game in town at that time was the developments that DART was doing, and we were trying to spark some economic activity. And that was the nature in which concessions were granted. They weren't that many, but they talk about all these hundreds of millions. They don't exist. I mean, it's just to me, it's just crazy. But the first caller when he talks about money is cheap. So I think about that, and I said, well, it's just because it's cheap, we have to buy it? We're going to borrow it?
And will it stay cheap?
Will it stay cheap? I mean, at the moment, everybody, I don't know, I mean, everybody ought to understand now that we are in a rising interest environment. The U.S. government, that they have signaled a tightening of their fiscal policy, that they are going to be raising interest rates. That flows right down to us here in Cayman immediately. Because as soon as the Federal Reserve raised the interest rates into bank lending rates that they have, our banks here will react within days, start to put interest up. You see where we are right now in terms of the inflationary environment. They had originally said it was transitory. It is not transitory. Inflation is here for the foreseeable future. And we are going to see that translate into the inflation rates here. We've already seen it, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. And so all of those things have the effect of driving interest rates and the cost of doing business much higher. And, what inflation really means to the ordinary person is that your purchasing power is decreasing. And so, if they proceed with doing this bond, then it's going to be a situation where they're doing it and where interest rates are higher than they are today. No lower.
So, O.C., I just wanted to raise one concern from two things. The first one from my constituencies. I've reached out to the health minister, Honourable Sabrina Turner, and she has indicated that she will respond. It's been a couple of days. She hasn't responded, but she did send a note yesterday saying, I will respond soon. The quarantine rules for persons who traveled, or quarantine facilities for persons who traveled versus those who have been put into quarantine because they tested positive locally. That is where we're seeing a challenge. We have people that are being sent home to quarantine, but they're not living in the conditions that would allow them to quarantine. They're living in boarding houses where they're sharing one bathroom with 5-6 other rooms. They're sharing one kitchen. And worse than that, we have situations where there are vulnerable persons, elderly, and those who are vulnerable due to illness, living in the same boarding houses or in the same home where the person is unable to quarantine or isolate themselves.
Okay.
And so if you were traveling and coming back, they would come and inspect it and say, in those times, they would say, no way, you can't go and stay there because you can't isolate.
Mm-hmm.
But if you test positive locally, they don't come and inspect where you're quarantining. And I know that it would be a huge undertaking to do so. I do feel that the public health team and others are feeling a bit of fatigue from when the borders open and with the uptick in so I have no complaints against them. They're doing their best. Yes. But perhaps government needs to allow, because they've closed off the government quarantine facilities, perhaps they need to rethink that. And in the instances where a person reaches out and say, I do not have a proper place to quarantine, I am putting my parents at risk in one particular case, the case that I reached out to the minister on, or I am at risk because one of my boarding mates or one of my persons living with me is or COVID positive, and I am an at-risk person.
Mm-hmm.
I need somewhere to go. I don't have money to go stay in a hotel for 14 days, etc., or 10 days. So I think I would like to say to the government, please have a look at this. And provide an opportunity for persons like that to reach out and say, can you please come, inspect, confirm that this is not a suitable place for me, and then provide them with some quarantine facilities. So it is really concerning. People are stressing. There is, OC, I think, more than, we see rising numbers in COVID cases. We're up to 12 in hospital, 11 in hospital now, I think. We see deaths rising. I think what is more concerning right now is what I'm calling COVID fatigue. People are getting tired, people are becoming stressed, people are worrying, and then you have instances like this where they have nowhere to turn. And in fact, I think someone on the hotline told them to contact their representative. Wow. I can't take them in my house. I don't, So I ask the government to please look into this and provide some support for those persons in those situations. OC, I'll come back next week, and I want to raise a concern from the Georgetown North constituency regarding the landfill. We had the fire trucks at the landfill all through December almost. I took a walk. I walk quite often in that area. I live right down the street, and I walk my dog, and I am absolutely certain at this time that there is no compacting and covering of the landfill at the moment. We've gone right back to where we were 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. That is why we're having fires. You can see it from the road. The industry standard that we tried to follow and that they should be following is that it should be compacted and covered every 24 hours. This reduces smell. This reduces gases getting into the air. This reduces fires and life safety issues. And most importantly, at the moment, because we've seen nothing happening with the regen, it has come to a standstill. That landfill area that they're using now only had a 5-year lifespan 2 years ago, if properly managed. When you look at landfills, the key thing about landfills is space, elevation. So that is besides the life safety aspect of it, so that you can run a safe. You don't want someone to fall into the trash. If you go there, you can stand on the road and see 5 or 6 trucks tipping all over the place, and no one up there directing them. And if somebody were to fall off into that trash, you wouldn't have a clue, because it's such a vast area. They're not compacting it. They're not covering it at the moment. And I'm concerned that we will see more fires. I can see from the road when they were having the fires and they were dousing down the landfill every day with the fire trucks, the leachate. That's another thing you're going to have if you're not compacting and covering, is as they were putting that water out those deep fires, the water was coming out down at the bottom, and you have a nice big black river of water heading towards the canal, the new road. In fact, the only reason it isn't going into the North Sound is because I think the new road there. So I am not being critical. Mm-hmm. I am very concerned. And this is on behalf of, and I hate to say it, but a lot of people dismiss it because they say, oh, it's Camana Bay is the one that's at risk. No. I got Georgetown Courts. When the wind swings around, I have Washington Boulevard. Everybody forgets about my people in Watlers Road, who are right there.
You have Whitehall area.
Whitehall, Parkway, all long-term, long-standing developments, and people that have lived there for decades and decades. And we keep forgetting about them, and we have this discussion. But I'm truly, truly concerned. I was hesitant to come on this morning to speak about it, but I've been walking my dog out there several times a week and having a look. I drove there yesterday, pulled off and looked, and I can tell you that they are not compacting and covering like they should be. And it's only a matter of time. If you do the same thing over and over and over, you're going to have the same result over and over and over again.
Okay. While you have the mic, closing comments? Any?
Just to say, again, I wish everyone who may have just tuned in a Happy New Year. We are, as I said, looking forward to a positive year. I would like, as my constituents have said to me, I would like to hear a bit more from the government. We're halfway through the month. We have heard nothing from them. There's so much speculation on social media. It seems to be one place you can go and get clarity, but nowhere else. But you don't know what's happening. People are scared. And again, Christmas is over. Time to get back to work. We need to hear from the government. My constituents want to hear from the government. And again, we are here. We are here to offer constructive criticism. We're here to do our job. And we are here, most importantly, to represent our constituents.
Sure. Mr. Leader?
Well, just to echo my colleague's comments, OC, and to give you thanks again for hosting us this morning. Wish, again, to anyone else who is listening in, a very happy new year. Again, I just reiterate, as leader of the opposition, I have a job to do. I have a role to play, and that is to provide an alternative view with regard to proposals put forward by the government. Not about me being sour grapes because I'm no longer in government. It's about doing and fulfilling my job. That's the way. That's the Westminster system that we operate under. And that's what I have to do as the opposition, is to present that view. There are times we will agree with the government, times we will not. And certainly in this, what we've seen here, what we're discussing today, it's one in which we do disagree, and so we will continue to press the case.
And you need not apologize for being here, because for years now we, and for the record, have provided a slot for the opposition, whatever party that may be, a slot on, for the record, for the opposition, and you have taken advantage of that slot that has been, as a matter of fact, you're given a little bit more flexibility now, because there's only one opposition entity, whereas at one point in time we were operating where we had an official opposition, and then we had individuals as well. So don't apologize for being here.
No, I'd never do that.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, well, gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here as well. And it is always important for people to be informed, for other viewpoints to be expressed as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands. I also want to thank all of those callers who chose to call in, those who sent WhatsApp messages as well. And I want to remind all of you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. So I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk Today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of